on radio. And now, the Great Movie Radio Show.
All right, everyone, quiet on the set. Places. We've got a show to make here. Is Chris ready? Yes. Okay, everyone, in 3, 2, 1, and... Coming to you live from sunny Orlando, Florida, it's the Great Movie Radio Show, a movie talk podcast, starring Chris Schneider.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Great Movie Radio Show. This is Chris Schneider coming to you from Orlando, Florida. I'm with the lovely Tracy Fox once again. Hello, Tracy.
Hello, I'm back again. I'm waving to you all.
The sounds of audio cannot pick up your waving noises. Yeah.
Yes.
And we're just chatting around about some other favorites. If you tuned in the last episode where we went around the track and had a fun time there. I still can't get the image out of my head of the woman in McClintock getting swept away by the birds.
Yes.
We really twisted up film here, and it works. That's the magic of the Great Movie Radio Show. We're taking these movies and we're putting them in places that usually wouldn't go together, and they do.
Transforming the ride into a whole new generation.
We were just chatting about the fact that we would talk about behind the scenes. Oh man, I wish I could put this scene in Movie Ride. One time I think I brought up with a few of you the scene from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when they're going through the tunnel.
Yes.
I wanted to put that into Fantasia. I've loved always thinking, what could we do here? What could we do there? How could we bring our own ideas? A question I ask you is, what are 5 films that have inspired you beyond your favorites? A couple of movies that just resonate differently. They're not necessarily your favorite, but they're important to you. They've left an impression on you. We're going to look at directors, a few movies you haven't seen. I look at your list and, I haven't seen this. But then I look at the ones you haven't seen. Oh, I've seen those. There's so many movies that
Not
you just
to say
miss.
that I didn't want to see these movies.
That's exactly it.
It's just I haven't had the chance to view them yet.
Exactly.
Yes.
And some of them I just haven't heard of or haven't seen. Looking at your list, I was like that too. Like I told you, Shawshank Redemption, I just saw within the past couple of months.
I love that movie so much.
You love it so much, but you haven't seen The Shining.
I know.
And I am like, I dressed up as the Grady twins for Halloween with my wife, kept the beard and everything. But no, see, that's exactly the point, is there's so many movies out there that we just somehow just miss them. I'm gonna watch it, and then you don't, and then years go by. I still need to watch this movie, and they just, because there's so many slip by. I love visiting that point that the interest is there. I have every intent of seeing this movie.
Especially when people talk about it and you have no idea what they're talking about, but you're like, yeah, I really should see it, so that way, I can actually understand what they're talking about.
That's me on half of this podcast. When we were talking about McClintock, I'm talking about the lady in the undergarments. I'm like, I don't know who it is, but I know there's a lady in undergarments. She's taking our ride now, and she's in this movie. I don't even know the actress that plays her, but I'm just going to run with it.
Yes.
But that's exactly it, is I have interest. We're going to talk about the 5 films that you listed that have inspired your life beyond your favorites. They've left a big impact, and I say big impact, and your first one is Tom Hanks' classic movie, Big.
Yes, I love Big. It's one of my favorite movies of all times.
The scene with the piano on the floor.
Oh, that's iconic, yes. And I have been to, back when it was FAO Schwartz, which,
You've been there?
I have. I went on the big piano. I had to get the iconic, picture of where, you're dancing on the piano. This was before FAO Schwartz closed.
We have a guest. All right, my dog Dexter has joined us again. So if you know Dexter, he is here.
Yes. But yes, it's very iconic. The reason I would say that it's one of those movies that inspires you outside of, being one of my favorite films is because it just teaches you, never grow up, be a child at heart, remember kind of what's important when it comes to life itself, like he does in the movie,
I will always be a giant child.
Okay, that's fine.
My wife and I don't need kids because I will always be one.
Gotcha.
Just kidding. No, I will always be a kid. But I think I visited, because I've only been to New York City once in my life. And I remember going to the store. So I can't remember if it was FAO Schwartz or Toys R Us. Because it was Toys R Us after FAO Schwartz. It was like
that had the big piano?
I don't know if it had the big piano there or not. I just want to say the store itself was...
Gotcha.
Was a Toys R Us after FAO Schwartz, because I think they bought them or something. I don't remember.
They did, yes.
Yeah, I want to say they did, and then Toys R Us went out, so we lost both. Toys R Us is back. Thanks, Target.
Woo-hoo.
And Target. I don't know if you know, Target is kind of. I don't know if they bought them, but they're helping them stay alive.
Come back.
Yeah, because apparently if you go to Toys R Us's website now, it takes you to Target.
Interesting.
I that's what I've heard. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. That's nice. I'm excited about it. The company understands how iconic Toys R Us is to the we're adults now, but our youth and Jeffrey the giraffe and.
Yes.
I remember going to Toys R Us and getting toys all the time as a kid, so it's.
And I worked at Toys R Us for a very long time.
My dad did as well.
Yes,
before,
my mom did. So
there you
I
go.
feel like it's a multi-generational thing.
Exactly, and I love the movies at like Christmas time that capture all the chaos of toy stores and all that for Christmas shopping.
That is totally true. 100%.
Exactly, but at the same time, getting to go to those places, picking out, nowadays it's Amazon online, which I use, but I love still going to the brick and mortar and just peeking in and seeing what's there. And because the selection there, it was the hunt of finding the toy,
the perfect toy.
Exactly, that made it great, and that grew into me collecting. I collect the pop figurines now and vinyl records. The hunt of those things, it started with hunting for toys as a kid at Toys R Us. We've kind of gone off the movie a little bit. Again, I will never grow up.
Yes,
I am a Toys R Us kid, and I haven't seen it in a long time. I need to watch it again.
It's very good. One of my favorite scenes is him eating the baby corn. It's just, it's great. There's so many good scenes in that movie. So
it is a great one. Pay It Forward is your next one.
Yes, love Pay It Forward.
I've seen it once.
It's one of those movies where I just feel like you could watch it all the time because it's really talking about the goodness of humanity. Here's a boy that's like trying out this new theory of how he's going to pick 3 people. And those 3 people are going to pick 3 people and they're going to help each other and it's going to make the world a better place. And then, come to find out, for him, the world doesn't become a better place, but his legacy lives on through the 3 people that he picks and acts of kindness that continue. And so it just teaches you to be kind and pay it forward.
I remember seeing it because it came out in 2000 and Haley Joel Osment, he was around at the time for... AI and Sixth Sense and Kevin Spacey, who, he's had his
struggles.
We'll call them struggles. At the time, it was a wonderful film, wonderful story,
yes.
and I need to revisit it. I really do. Actually, recently, around Christmas time, my wife and I were at the drive-thru at Wendy's. We paid for the people behind us because they turned their brights off, their lights in the drive-thru, and they had this giant truck. We found out because of what they were getting. We drove up and stopped. We looked back, and they were getting kids' meal stuff. Mm-hmm. So not only did we took care of their kids,
that's really
which
nice.
was awesome, but then we saw them look back.
Uh-huh.
And they gave them money. They paid for the people behind them. A lot of people do that at drive-thrus and restaurants, but I've never done that.
Uh-huh.
Not because I haven't wanted to. I don't know. I just never have participated and gone through the motions. But my wife insisted, and I was like, let's do it.
Yes.
And it was an experience, and it's a little thing. It will probably resonate with me for quite a while because like I said, we fed children, which they have this huge truck, and I'm sure they had the money to do it. But we help take care of somebody else.
Yes.
And
that ripple effect.
The ripple effect, and I've tried to do charitable events and stuff like that. It's nice how warm you feel when you're helping others or taking care of others.
You get just as much out of it as somebody else.
Exactly, and it's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's about sharing the human connection with others. Even not indirectly with them, of course, because they don't even know who we were, and all they saw was our car. And hopefully they'll know to turn their lights off for other people in the drive-thru in the future because food's free, maybe. But that's the thing, in this day and age. But people driving around with their brights on and stuff, and that's what it was. Is we weren't getting blinded in the drive-thru. Thank you for doing that. Very kind. Here's dinner.
Yes.
And it turned into something bigger, and that was really great. Your third one is WALL-E, which yes. I absolutely adore WALL-E. It is probably my favorite Pixar film.
Yes. It's one of my favorites too.
I love it so much.
Wally.
The dance in space with the fire extinguisher was probably my favorite part of the film.
That is pretty good. I'll say that.
It was very poetic.
Yes.
And I'm a huge fan of that film and the story it tells, and I think you and I share the reason why it's on your list is for the environment, the sake of the environment.
Yes.
You can dive into more if you want.
Yeah. Basically, we need to take care of what we have, because the fact is this could be an alternative that we could be living in the very near future. I like where we live. I like our planet, and I don't want to be kicked off to a spaceship and become, riding around in a little space cart.
I wouldn't mind going on a spaceship, but not to live.
Yeah, exactly. I like fresh air. I like trees. I like gardening, all that good stuff. And I think it's just we need to be more aware of how we treat our planet.
I agree. So. Also, it's a story of getting off your lazy butt and doing something.
Exactly. Be the change you want to see.
Yeah, it's a great film. If you haven't seen WALL-E, I highly recommend it. I can go on about WALL-E and just stutter about it too, because it's one of my favorites. I love it so much. Your next one is Aaron Brockovich, which I have seen only once.
Yes.
But I love your reasoning for it inspiring you, and that is
basically not being afraid to stand up to the big guy, you know what I mean, for what's right, what needs to, change, because here are these people in this movie that they're being poisoned by this big company, PG&E. Everybody is just kind of sweeping it under the rug that, because they're a big name company, nobody really wants to take them on and challenge them. But here are people that are dying because of the poisons and the toxins that they're putting in the water. And, this one woman basically comes along and she goes, something's not right here. And basically stands up and says, we got to do something for these people. So it comes back to, again, like standing up for the little guy and making sure that we're doing what's right for all of humanity.
If you like that, if that was the takeaway from the film, I just saw Mark Ruffalo's Dark Waters.
I really want to see that. I've
kind
heard
of the same premise.
Yes.
But it was a very thrilling movie. I loved it a lot.
Yes.
Ruffalo was great. Tim Robbins from Shawshank is in it as well. Great story. Loved it a lot, and very similar to the there's something bad going on here.
Yes.
It's trying to be swept under.
Yes.
I'm going to dig it up and fix this.
Yes. And what I really like about this movie is it's a true story. So it's a woman that, she might be a little rough around the edges, but at the same time she's got a great heart, and she really cares about the people in this town that are being poisoned by this company. And I know since this movie has come out, she's still continued to be an activist for clean water. In my hometown of Flint, Michigan, it's still a struggle. They're still struggling with clean water, and she's been there trying to fight the good fight to get them access to the water that they deserve.
It's a hard time, and I can't believe that's still going on.
Yep.
To this day, it's a natural source. Why taint it for your profit? Wherein ultimately the health and survival of the people around you is going to bring you a better business. If everyone's dying around because you're poisoning water, who are you going to profit off of? It's a very tough situation, and
yes.
hopefully good things come from it soon. Getting on to your fifth one, Rudy.
Yes. I love Rudy.
I got the pleasure of meeting Sean Astin about 10 years ago, and I didn't bring up Rudy. It was more for the sake of Lord of the Rings and Goonies, of course.
Oh, Goonies, yeah, that's
Goonies,
a good one.
Yes. But I have seen Rudy once, and I remember it favoring well with my interests, and yes. I loved what I saw. I don't remember a bunch about it, but yes. I remember, and I love when KFC had him as the Colonel recently. Did you not see those commercials?
No.
Rudy came back as Colonel Sanders, and they did a Rudy 2 for a KFC commercial.
No.
It was a minute commercial, but they called it Rudy 2, and it had something to do with the Kentucky Fried Chicken stuff. But it was hilarious, and I laughed so hard at it. It was something about never giving. I know who I'm supposed to be, and he puts on the Colonel and becomes the Colonel.
Oh my God!
So great. KFC, despite the food, sometimes it's okay. Their marketing is so... The best one they've done still, in my opinion, is having RoboCop as Colonel Sanders. I don't know if you saw that one.
No.
Peter Weller came back and did... he came back and did RoboCop, and they put, like, the glasses. They didn't, like... It didn't have the parts that go around your ears. It was just the frames right there over his visor.
Oh, jeez.
And then they put the mustache on him and the beard. And it was the most hilarious thing. I'll have to show you a picture. But Colonel Sanders' RoboCop was the greatest thing. And they even did the commercials felt like you were with RoboCop, and it was him selling the "Get my $5 fill-up bucket" or whatever it was. And it was him as But Sean Astin did the Rudy, brought back Rudy for KFC, and I laughed so hard. And I'm sorry, I'm going off on these stupid KFC commercials, but you brought up the ET one earlier, and that's still sitting with me. So what is it about Rudy that just sticks out to you?
Well, if you've never seen Rudy, here's this 5'0" kid that basically loves Notre Dame football, and his whole family loves Notre Dame football, and he wants desperately to play on Notre Dame's football team. And he basically works his guts out to try to make this team. And he ends up, getting on this team and ends up becoming almost like a punching bag for these bigger players that always play first string. But these players that play first string see how hard he works and have, seen all that he gives. And they're like, he deserves a chance. Like, he's the epitome of an underdog, you know what I mean? And he basically just never gives up because this is his dream. This is what he's always wanted to do. And for him to actually finally get the chance to go out on the field and make that dream come true it's very, like, powerful and very, I would say, like, good guy, like, you're rooting for him scene.
Of course.
And it's, I don't know, it's one of those, like, just keep going, you're gonna make it, you're gonna be able to do it, you know?
And it sounds like it's not just the individual aspect of that mentality, but it's the teamwork mentality too. Because he was not only was he there strengthening himself to reach his goal, he was in that moment he was strengthening them too, and that's what brought their mentality, their companionship to help him reach his goals as well. Came together and got him to where he wanted to be ultimately. So.
Yes.
Now, great film. I love Rudy. I need to watch it again. It's been so long since I've seen it, and Sean Astin was wonderful in that role.
Psst. Hey, you. Yeah, I'm talking to you, listening to the great movie radio show starring Chris Schneider. I don't want anybody to get hurt, so don't go moving around until this Movie Talk podcast comes back. Capiche?
Warning. Remain on this podcast. The advertisement you are experiencing is extremely dangerous. Proceed with caution.
Hey, Chris here. Wanting to talk to you about the Tower Arcade and Lounge, located at the Citrus Tower in Claremont, Florida. The Tower Arcade and Lounge is a newly opened retro arcade and bar. For a small cover, visitors can enjoy unlimited free play on more than 30 games, such as Centipede, Area 51, Donkey Kong, and favorite of mine, Pac-Man. They have many other classic arcade games as well. Mechanical games such as pinball, hoops, crane and skill prize games are on old school quarters. They have a great selection of beer and wine, wine-based liquors, and sodas. Snacks are available at a reduced price because of the cover charge. Every Thursday night is hospitality night with a 10% off discount with employee ID. Visit the Tower Arcade and Lounge on Facebook or their website, www.towerarcade.com, or find them on Instagram with hashtag TowerArcadeCT. The Tower Arcade and Lounge. Tell them Chris from the GMR show sent you. So we are looking at opportunities for networking and cross-promoting our podcast with maybe some local businesses or an online business that would like an opportunity to get their product out there. If you feel like you would like to take advantage of this unique opportunity, shoot us an email at thegmrshow@gmail.com. We're looking at businesses to advertise maybe 30 to 45 seconds worth and be featured here on the show and on our website as well. Again, if you're interested, you can email us at thegmrshow@gmail.com, and we'll make sure our people contacts your people.
The heat's on, see? Which means it's time for Chris Schneider, host of the Great Movie Radio Show, to get back to work. I gotta lay low myself. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another episode of this Movie Talk podcast. Do it, or else, if you know what I mean.
We're going to talk about directors.
Okay.
And a lot of these were in some of your favorite movies, and I understand completely why they were. From Scorsese to Spielberg, Penny Marshall, Frank Capra, and Nancy Meyers. Mm-hmm. We've kind of already touched base on the previous episode about films that they have directed that are among your favorites. Now we get to actually sit down and talk about their work itself. And Scorsese has been one of those that I've seen on so many lists. He's one of the best.
He is. He's been in the business a long time now.
And to you, he is the best.
It's the gritty realism that he brings in his films that makes him such a good director. You know what I mean? It
really is. And I still need to see Gangs of New York. I don't know how I've not seen that one.
That one's good. That one's really good.
I need to see that one. I need to see Mean Streets. I don't have many of his I haven't seen.
Yes.
And Goodfellas, I actually just watched it for the first time in the past couple of months. Ray Liotta in that film.
He's fantastic.
He just kind of like tells you to come with him, and you just follow him along, and he's just, I feel like I'm walking next to him, and he's just telling me everything as we're going through Goodfellas. And it's such a great story, and such a great movie, and very captivating as far as a mob movie goes.
Yes. That was one of the first, his movie Mean Streets was one of the first films, obviously, that he made, but also one of the first films that I had really kind of seen of his, I guess you could say. I watched it in college. We had to watch it in a film class. And just seeing his story of, you know, these guys associated with, like, mob and that dark side of New York, like the seedy side. And it was so fascinating, you know, to see how the depth he goes into with his characters and creating that storyline that you really almost root for them, you know?
And the atmosphere around them, too.
Exactly. Like, these are the things that they're trying to overcome to get where they need to go.
And he's inspired so many directors. Most recently, Todd Phillips did the Joker movie. I don't know if you saw that or not.
No.
That movie was heavily influenced by the works of Scorsese.
I could see that in a heartbeat.
I want to say he was actually involved in a production sense in some sort of fashion at some point for the Joker. Just the tone of the film, the delivery, the way it flowed, the detail of the character, everything felt like Scorsese. And Todd Phillips nailed it on the head with, I don't want to say he copied Scorsese, but
his style.
It was almost like Scorsese directed Joker. And again, it wasn't that Todd Phillips copied. You could tell he studied.
Yes.
You can tell that he had a way he wanted to present it. And Todd Phillips did that and was successful with Joker, in my opinion. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. I loved it. I think I saw it 3 times in the theater. They filmed it in flat, so it felt like old school. The tone of the film was the 80s, because it was the early 80s when it was taking place. And it had that, you know, that grace, the darkness to it. It really felt like it was sinister.
Uh-huh.
And the more that you went along in the story, the more sinister it felt. Just like with Scorsese, you follow these characters, and like you said, you're rooting for them. But you're also going down the rabbit hole with them at the same time.
Yeah. And
that's what Joker did. It felt like you're going down the rabbit hole with the character. The entire journey is fantastic. I have loved Scorsese. I can't remember the first Scorsese film I ever saw. I want to say The Departed. I went off and I was like, I need to watch others of his movies. And at the time, I wasn't into movies as much as I am now, and getting into more and more of his film. You see the craftsmanship that he delivers as a director. It's phenomenal. I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent with him.
Okay.
I appreciate him so much. Did you have anything else to contribute to the Scorsese?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Penny Marshall is your next one, though.
Yes.
I think I've only seen one Penny Marshall film.
No, if you've seen Big, you've seen a second one. Have you seen Big?
I have seen Big.
I've
only seen it. Okay, so I've only seen a handful of Penny Marshall.
Yes.
See, I don't even know all the films Penny Marshall has done.
Yes.
So I am
Yeah, so if you've seen Big, if you've seen A League of Their Own, you've seen at least 2 of
I've seen 2.
Penny Marshall's
There we go.
films. Yes. I like her and her brother Gary Marshall did some pretty good movies as well.
I know of Gary Marshall. I didn't know they were I didn't even know they were related.
Yes, they were siblings. Both of them now passed away.
Oh. Okay.
But at the same time, like Gary Marshall did the Princess Diaries movies, Pretty Woman.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, and Gary Marshall was very famous for having all the same cast when it came to his films. So little fun facts about them. So yes, but I love Penny Marshall. I like how she writes humorous scenes for sure.
Frank Capra.
Oh, I love Frank Capra. I love him. It's a Wonderful Life. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. There's so many great films that he made throughout his career that, most people don't even know that he made, but he just...
I was gonna say, I've not heard the name before, but I've seen...
Yes.
I've seen It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is one on my watch list.
Yes.
And, sadly, he passed away in 91.
Yes. So it's been a while. I mean, these are all movies that were made back in, the 30s, 40s, some 50s, but that's when he was in his peak of his movie-making days. But he was very good at capturing, I would say, the poignancy of, like, human emotion. You know what I mean? The scenes that you see with Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life, when you see the haunted... look on his
Arsenic
face.
and Old Lace.
Yes, he did. Exactly. Like, most people don't know all of the films that he's directed, but he's done a lot of great works, a lot of classics.
That's
films.
what I appreciate about doing this show is I get to learn things I didn't know, and I get to run off and then know about them more.
Yes.
Spielberg is your next one.
Yes.
And
How many iconic movies does that man have? It's ridiculous.
My brain cells cannot compute how many
You've got Jaws. You've got Jurassic Park. You've got E.T. You've got Saving Private Ryan. Like, just numerous big blockbuster movies that are so well directed. Like, between him and George Lucas and Martin Scorsese, that all came out of that era of film directors. Think of all of the movies that just those 3 have produced alone is pretty baffling. So.
Which is great too, because he's also done like smaller movies. I wouldn't call them smaller, but like the recent one he did, The Post, with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. That's not like Jurassic Park.
Yes.
But it's just as
a compelling story
as Jurassic Park, and that's what I love about Spielberg is he pumps out movies. Yes. Like he's a director that works on multiple projects at once. And of course, he does the production company with DreamWorks, and he's one of my favorites too. Yes. And I just saw, was a year or 2 ago when Ready Player One came out. That was a great movie. Completely different from the book, had the same spirit to it, of course, because the guy who wrote the book wrote the script to the movie. So if any changes were made, it was the author's changes to translate better to the film. But I loved it. I loved the way that movie brought the essence of, these characters who meet online and then meet in real life and have to save the world almost.
Yes.
It was a very great adventure story, and that's what Spielberg's always been a man of adventure. And of course, we can't forget Indiana Jones.
I know! It's one of my favorites. It's so good.
And he's been involved. He also did, I want to say he did The Adventures of Tintin.
I think so, yes.
Which is a favorite animated movie of mine. Of course, Peter Jackson was also involved, and he's one of my favorite directors. Our third guest, Dexter the whiny dog, I don't know what's going on with him, but he wants attention. Do you want to talk about movies, Dexter? He said no. I've loved everything Spielberg has done. I don't think I've ever seen a bad movie of his. And I know he did 1941, which a lot of people pan, which I still haven't seen.
That was early in his career.
It was.
So I guess we could forgive him if he had one bad.
Well, he was probably experimenting in the waves of filmmaking and finding his tone.
Yes. So that's why we can forgive him for a bad film.
And I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's bad or not, but I've also heard it's a great watch because it's hilarious, and of course I love John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd growing up, Blues Brothers. Yes. Come on. Your last director, Nancy Meyers.
Yes. We talked about her briefly in the last one.
We did.
Like I said, she kind of, she has that comic humor that is, I don't want to see even dry humor, but it's just kind of humor that sneaks up on you. Basically, adults that are kind of trying to find their second phase in their lives. I know she did a film with Jack Nicholson, and I want to say...
Oh, yeah, she did Something's Gotta Give.
Yes, that's the one I was going to say.
And she did one of the movies you want to see, if I remember correctly, The Holiday.
Yes, that's one of my favorite movies, is The Holiday. So, yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was one of your favorite movies. I'm
Yes.
sorry. I was looking at a different list.
Yes.
Oh, she did the Parent Trap remake.
Yes.
I remember that when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I have seen a Nancy Byers movie.
Okay, exactly.
There we go.
So, yeah.
It was a wonderful, wonderful film, so I can definitely see the appeal there. I'm very excited to talk about the 5 films you haven't seen.
Oh, don't judge me.
2 of these I've seen.
Okay.
One of them I've seen, sort of.
Okay.
And the other 2 I haven't seen at all, but one of them is definitely on my watch list. Like, I need to watch it yesterday.
Okay.
So, The Shining. My theater just replayed it before Dr. Sleep came out.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't seen Dr. Sleep, one of the best sequels I have ever seen, and you haven't seen The Shining, so I don't know if you know this. Stanley Kubrick made it in 1980. Stephen King hated it. Thought he completely messed up some of the character work from his book. Hated it. It's considered the best horror movie of all time. Mm-hmm. And so fans love the movie. Coming into a sequel, Stephen King wrote the book in 2013, Dr. Sleep. And the guy who did the Haunting on Hill House, I think it's called, on Netflix, did Dr. Sleep. Great director. I loved what he brought to the movie. He had to not only appease the Kubrick estate from the cinematic viewpoint of Dr. Sleep, but he had to appease Stephen King from the book. He did both.
So are you saying that Dr. Sleep is a sequel to The Shining?
It was a book written... Yeah, in 2013.
As a sequel to what
he wrote the book.
In The Shining.
Well, I didn't read the book, but if I remember correctly, the book was a sequel to the book. But the film, Dr. Sleep, followed the book, but also followed the film. He had this tough adaptation of making both happen without issue.
Okay.
And he did it. And it was wonderful, and I loved it. And we got to revisit events from The Shining. And Dr. Sleep, it's the boy in The Shining. Ewan McGregor plays him in the film.
I have never seen the movie, remember?
I know.
So
But
how am I going to know this?
I know. Well, this is all I'm telling you is when you, because you will watch The Shining. The boy in The Shining grows up, and then Dr. Sleep is the boy.
Okay, all right.
Is the boy from the original.
Are we ruining things for the listener? Should we?
No, that's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
That's all. I'm not going to tell you events or anything.
Okay.
But it's a wonderful film. The Shining. Jack Nicholson scared the Jesus out of me.
Gotcha.
And not like a jump scare, but just the raw, like he was just
a nutcase.
Yes,
okay.
It was psychotic as all can be, and
what is appealing about this? Because this is not sounding like it's an appealing.
It's
movie
cabin
that I
fever.
watch.
The entire movie is, Jack Nicholson's character has this, he has anger problems, and they go to this hotel to watch it through the winter because it's in Colorado, and it's being closed for the winter. So they're just making sure all the water heat is good and everything's being maintained through the winter while the outside weather is what it is. And there is a supernatural thing that has happened. The supernatural things bring in Jack Nicholson's anger problems with a touch of cabin fever, and everything goes to hell.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it is crazy.
Gotcha.
But also the boy has something to him as well that you find out more and more as the story progresses. And then those things kind of play into Dr. Sleep because the boy, he's like in his 40s, Danny Torrance, and there are things that he has suppressed from The Shining, and he has to kind of revisit for the events of Dr. Sleep to play out the way they do. I'm trying not to ruin anything. He has to revisit his childhood, and it is. I can't wait for Dr. Sleep to come out on video so I can sit down and watch them both back to back. Dr. Sleep was a great sequel, and I can't wait for you to see The Shining, and when you do, you have to tell me.
All right, I will.
You have to tell me.
Okay.
I'm holding you to it. But Ben-Hur is one that you've never seen.
I have never seen Ben-Hur, and I've always wanted to see it. And I know it's in the movie ride, and
I've only seen a part of it. I haven't seen the whole movie.
Is it the one in the movie ride that you've seen the part of?
No, I mean, I've seen bits and pieces on, like, TV or something. My grandfather loved Ben-Hur when I was growing up, so I saw it some when I was... And maybe I've seen the whole movie when I was, like, a toddler, and I just can't remember it because it was on in the background, and maybe I was playing with my... Lincoln Logs or something, and it was just on, and I didn't know. I was experiencing Ben-Hur because Granddaddy was watching it, and I don't want to watch that old movie. I love my toys. Yes. I don't know. We have movies that got by us that we might have been there for. But I have seen some bits and pieces of Ben-Hur in some point of my life. I didn't watch the remake. It looked like crap. That was a movie you don't remake. How dare you?
Well, I feel like a lot of movies nowadays should
exactly,
not be
and that is one that
if it's that iconic.
And I haven't even watched like the original in its entirety to know that I need to judge the new one. It's just I knew it. I was like, no, don't. That's like I mean the show Spartacus is different and the same, but that is one that will probably be on my 5 that I want to watch is Kirk Douglas's Spartacus.
It's very good. Spartacus is a very good movie.
I loved it.
I
recently watched Trumbo, a movie with Bryan Cranston, who was a writer that they were.
Wasn't he blacklisted?
He was blacklisted for
communist.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, he wrote in his exile. He wrote Spartacus with Kirk Douglas.
Yes, but they used pseudonames so they wouldn't know that it was him.
That was such a good movie. I loved it. I have this app that has like everything I've watched, everything I want to watch, and like ratings. A great app called Letterboxd. If you don't use Letterboxd and you love movies, there's my 10 seconds of plugging them. I want to see Ben-Hur in its entirety, and
I've only seen the chariot race that was in the Great Movie Ride.
I've seen the whole race,
yes.
And I want to say that's all I've seen was I watched the whole race. I watched like the sequence or something. Great stuff, and I need to watch the entire thing. Charade, I have never seen.
I have not seen that either, but it's got one of my favorite guys, which is Cary Grant. I love Cary Grant. Like, he's one of my go-to old movie actors, and it's got Audrey Hepburn.
I was about to say it came out in 1963.
Yes.
Walter Matthau's in it too. I need to see this.
Yes, it's one of those. I think it's a caper movie, but I'm not entirely sure. But I've seen it in other movies where they've shown clips of it, and I was like, I've never seen that movie.
Based on the synopsis, it sounds caperish. It's romance and suspense ensue in Paris as a woman is pursued by several men who want a fortune her murdered husband has stolen. Whom can she trust? So it's like they're trying to caper her.
Yes.
What she has come into
owning.
But
it's one of those. I love Audrey Hepburn. Love Cary Grant. I feel like this is one of their movies that I probably should see.
That sounds like a good one. I'm going to have to catch that one too.
Yes.
And then this one I've seen. I've seen all of them.
The Mission Impossible.
The Mission Impossible movies.
I've never seen The Mission Impossible.
I will tell you that one is great. It set up a great film franchise.
Yes.
And Tom Cruise, I got to give it to him. He has not always been the best actor.
But he does his own stunts.
He does his own stunts.
It's very impressive.
He has made it a goal with every Mission Impossible movie to top his previous stunt. How was he going to top 7?
Well, I don't even know which one it is because there's been so many. How do you keep up on them? But like I saw, they were showing some sort of clip of him like basically hanging out the side of a plane.
That wasn't Ghost
and I'm
Protocol.
Like,
that was Dubai.
That? Who does that?
Was it Fallout or Rogue Nation? It was either Fallout or Rogue Nation where they did the plane. I want to say it was Fallout.
I've never
seen
that.
Was the last one,
so I don't know. I have seen the Bourne series. Though.
Okay, yeah, those are good. I haven't seen all of them. I think I've seen all the Matt Damon ones that were before Jeremy Renner did his. And I didn't see that one, and then I didn't see the one where Matt Damon returns after that.
I didn't see that one.
So those are the two I haven't seen, but I've seen the others. Mission Impossible, one great movie.
Yes.
Great cast, great ensemble,
yes.
And then 2 is interesting.
What is the storyline of Mission Impossible? Just so I know.
Is
he a CIA agent?
He's part of the Impossible Mission Force, the IMF.
Oh, lovely.
Ooh, yeah, such a great name. And it was a TV series back in I want to say the 60s or 70s.
Probably.
And then they brought it back for a film franchise in '96. I want to say was the first one.
Yes.
And
just see that iconic scene where he's dropping down.
Yep.
And he's touching the floor.
Holding on to it.
Exactly.
Can't get. And I remember watching him swimming in the air with this wire and between him and setting off this alarm. And he's just like. And I kind of chuckle to myself every time because
yes.
But it's
is he gonna fall?
It's
is
so
he not
suspenseful at the same time. And the train sequence was great too because they're fighting on a train.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Exactly. Very iconic.
So it's part of the Impossible Mission Force, and they just have these things that the CIA or the FBI nobody knows. It's up to you, Ethan Hunt, to solve this.
So he's the go-to guy when it comes to all of these
He's
things.
like the secret
weapon,
secret agent.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the James Bond of America.
Oh, okay. All right.
And of course, they're in different countries too, but he's, American-based, it seems like. He has these impossible missions that he must succeed or else the world
will end or die.
Or something of someone...
catastrophic nature.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
So the second one was crazy, and I don't remember too much about it. I remember it being John Woo and it being very emotional and drama-driven because John Woo... It was 2002, I want to say, when that one came out, and it... Watching it now, it's very silly compared to the other ones. But it was the emo. It was like Mission Impossible went through an emo phase. And then Mission Impossible 3 was J.J. Abrams. Great villain, too. Philip Seymour Hoffman was in that one. And then 4 completely changed the game. Brad Bird, who filmed your favorite animated movie, The Incredibles, stepped out of the animation area and did his first live action movie. Was Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, was the 4th one, and that blew me away. It was another movie I saw in IMAX. I saw it 3 times there because it was so good and so compelling and so action packed and held me on. I love that movie, and then they've gotten better. Every single movie has gotten better since Ghost Protocol, and now they're making 8 and 9, and I can't believe it. I don't care for Fast and the Furious, and they're making a ridiculous amount of movies. And here we are with 8 and 9 of Mission Impossible. No, I highly recommend if you have the time to sit down and watch, even if you can't watch them all at once.
Watching at least the first.
Watch the first one.
Skip the second.
The second one deserves, if you need something to watch when you're going to bed, watch the second one. The third one's good. I highly recommend it because it, like I said, it reignited the series. And then the 4th one, they have not stopped being... They work on topping themselves every time, and it's a great film. Christopher McQuarrie, I think's his name. He did Jack Reacher with Tom Cruise.
Okay.
And then after he did Reacher, he came on to the Mission Impossible movies, and they've done the last 2, I want to say. Very good. I could go on. Well, there's so many of them. That's why there's so much to talk about. Your last movie you haven't seen is another one I haven't seen, but I currently own it with the anticipation of watching it, Schindler's List.
Yes. It's one of those films that I've always wanted to see. I know kind of the storyline that it's obviously during World War II or right before World War II.
The concentration camps.
Yes, having to do with Jewish concentration camps. I've heard, I think it's a Spielberg movie.
It is.
And I've heard wonderful things about it, but I've never actually sat down and watched it. I believe it's Academy Award-winning film.
Multiple, yeah.
But I have never had the chance to watch it.
It re-released in my theater, within the year, and we had it for a week, and I had every intention of sitting down and watching it. We only had 3 shows daily because the movie is so freaking long.
Makes sense.
And it was during our slow season, so we could only, I think it was 3-ish hours, and because of that, we could only fit 3 shows during the day. And I wanted to watch it, I just never got a chance to, and I kept kicking myself, saying I should have sat down, and that was the time to watch it. So I ended up getting the DVD for $1 or $2 online, and I have every intent of watching it, but I haven't had a chance to sit down and find that amount of time to watch the whole thing. I might have to do like I did with The Irishman and watch half, and then watch the other half. So I can do the whole thing. I'm all for watching long movies, so I could do it. It's just I need to find the time.
Yes.
Definitely one I want to see, too. The last thing, which is your favorite decade of film, is the 1940s. And I am starting to go back into the 40s and watch a lot of movies that I haven't seen. Of course, I wasn't alive in the 40s. But ones that I haven't got a chance to watch from that era that I want to go back and see. Turner Classic Movies is very keen on showing those older movies off, and I'm starting to dive in and watch a lot more. What are ones? Is there a reason why the 40s?
I love black and white films, and obviously back in the 40s, those were pretty prevalent. I would say half and half, where color was starting to come around, but at the same time, the good majority of them were still black and whites. There's just something about watching a black and white on TV, but also the film director, like Frank Capra, was around there. I love the...
Well, he did A Wonderful Life, and that was
A Wonderful Life.
1946.
Exactly. Arsenic and Old Lace is another one of my favorite ones of his. But It Happened One Night. I just like all of the movie stars from that era. They're so iconic, whether it's Clark Gable or whether it's Jimmy Stewart or Cary Grant or Katharine Hepburn. There's so many iconic film stars, and I feel like a lot of the ideas were very original back then, whereas nowadays you see a lot of remakes. I feel like a simpler time. Nowadays you see a lot of gore in movies, or you see a lot of violence in movies, whereas they might have had, gangster movies, but they didn't necessarily show all the violence in the gangster movies like you see in movies today. So I want to say it's more like, I guess, wholesome movies itself. Not to say that there wasn't gripping and compelling performances back in those days, because there's, lots of movies, whether it's suspense, like the movie Rebecca that you see, I think was 1940, that you're just like on the edge of your seat, but at the same time, or any of other movies that you feel connected with them,
I appreciate the 40s a lot because I have an ancestor who was an actor.
Get out!
He was in a Jimmy Stewart movie, Winchester.
Okay.
He's been in a lot of movies, and his most well-known movies were in the 40s. Too Late for Tears, Scarlet Street, Black Angel, The Flight of Faith was the 60s. Dan Duryea. My last name is Schneider, but it used to be Duryea. I took my wife's name. And I grew up watching I saw maybe like 3 or 4, but I didn't remember too much about him, so I've been slowly diving back into him. Dan Duryea's catalog, and he either was in the Westerns as this, like, not the main villain, but maybe like the second in command, or he was in the mob movies.
Yes.
And his most well-known era was the 40s. And I'm looking through his catalog right now, and he did a lot of underground movies. I mean, he was even in Bonanza.
Bonanza.
So he's done a lot. He actually did an episode of Magical World of Disney in the 50s. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling through his film history to find Winchester 73 in 1950 as Waco Johnny Dean. He was with Jimmy Stewart. He did Too Late for Tears in 1949. He's done...
Who's in that movie?
Manhandled. Elizabeth Scott and Don DeFore.
No idea.
Manhandled. I don't know much about that one. He was with a movie in 1949 with Burt Lancaster called Crisscross. Yep. Will make you jump. Not really. Yeah, he's worked with a lot of...
big name people?
He has.
Interesting. White
Ties and Tails is one I need to see. That was 1946. Yeah, he was the main credit in Black Angel from 1946. June Vincent and Peter Lorre. He was in Gregory Peck's Valley of Decision in 1945. Oh, he was Jimmy Doyle in Sahara in 1943 with Humphrey Bogart. I forgot about that. I appreciate the fact that someone in my family, I guess working the movie ride and seeing these older films, that I have someone that in my family actually contributed to, not to the ones on the ride, but that era that the ride covered, and that I come from that, I guess, and that's really cool, and it means something to me. And when I was growing up, my grandmother and my grandfather would both always be like, well, this Dan Duryea movie, and my wife's grandmother will watch movies, and I watched a Dan Duryea piece the other day. Tell Chris about it, and they'll talk about that. Well, Tracy, I really enjoyed talking to you about things I haven't seen, things you haven't seen. Thank you for listening to us just ramble and talk about movies and things we love about them. And if you're liking what you're hearing, subscribe. You can find us at many podcast outlets: Spotify, Apple, Google, all of their podcasts. Anchor is our main source, so give them some love. If you have the Anchor app, you can listen to us there. But Tracy, it's been a pleasure having you on for a couple of episodes. And like I said, if it wasn't for the Great Movie Ride, you and I would never have met, and we wouldn't have something to celebrate. So I appreciate everything that has come into life since we have been able to meet because of this. So thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again here soon on the Great Movie Radio Show. The Great Movie Radio Show is recorded in Orlando, Florida. You can visit our website at www.thegmrshow.com. Art direction and logo design provided by Mr. Bayless. Voiceover and intro work provided by Dave Fesky and Joe Erickson. You can find our podcast on multiple platforms such as Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and many more. Music provided by the YouTube Audio Library. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search The Great Movie Radio Show or The GMR Show. This has been The Great Movie Radio Show. We hope you enjoy your day, and we'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of. Goodbye, everyone.
You have been listening to a WGMR radio production.